Hello, good evening. Welcome. This is Hot Edition. We're live on news about Tadesawe Kanda, also live on Kesmi 107.1 in Tamale and beyond. We're live on W93.5 in Wa and beyond. Also streaming all across the world on TV3 Ghana, on Facebook, and also on 3FM92.7. Join us with your thoughts, views, comments, and opinions. Coming up this evening, we stumbled, but we are rising again. President Akufo-Addo asserts and expresses confidence in economic recovery despite prevailing challenges. We have details for you from the State of the Nation address delivered by the President earlier today. This evening, we subject the President's penultimate State of the Nation address to critical analysis here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. Also, this evening, the NDC 2024 flag bearer, John Dramani Mahama, submits running mate choice to the national leadership of the party for consideration in the next 48 hours. That's going to be the preoccupation of the party. Stay with us. We have a conversation on that. And also the reaction so far and the many aspects of the State of the Nation address that President Akufo-Addo delivered earlier today. All these here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. I am Alfred Ocansey. Welcome. President Akufo-Addo has expressed confidence in the recovery of the Ghanaian economy despite the prevailing challenges. Economy has experienced a downturn since 2022, with all the economic indicators like inflation, cost of living, exchange rate fluctuations, high unemployment, amongst others, spiraling out of control. For instance, inflation, which hovered around 13.9% as at January 2022, had skyrocketed to 54% by December. This was 2023, the same year, and eventually peaked at 54.3% in January 2023. The local currency, the cedi, has also experienced the plummeting to the lowest exchanging for about 17 cedis to a dollar as of December 2022. The dire situation compelled the government to seek an emergency economic support from the International Monetary Fund. A year into the program, the things beginning to shape up according to government. Delivering his penultimate State of the Nation address in Parliament earlier today, President Akufo-Addo assured Ghanaians that the storm, he says, is over.
Mr. Speaker, we stumbled, but we are rising again. We were bruised, but we are healing. We have recovered our footing. We have dusted ourselves off. And now we face tomorrow with confidence. Every day we pray and hope that adversity may spare our families, our communities, and our dear nation. But should we be confronted by misfortune, we must face it like people with a proud history who fight and do not flee. That is the Ghanaian spirit. That is our armor and our shield. This is our ethos. Let us believe in Ghana. I believe in Ghana. And may God bless our homeland, Ghana, and make her great and strong.
Well, that's President Akufo-Addo there. Now, the president also took responsibility for the economic challenges.
Executive power of the state is vested in the President of the Republic. He or she is the executive. There's no ambiguity about where the buck stops when it comes to responsibility for what happens in the government. It stops with the president. He or she has ultimate responsibility. It would be an unwise president that would pretend to have all the answers and refuse the advice of his officials. The fact remains that the president holds the executive power. The cabinet, the ministers of state, all act ultimately in an advisory manner. Of course, the member of the government might take an idea, be it generated by the president or the official or a committee, and turn it into a huge success, and the honors will be claimed or shared where public perception falls. But ultimately, the president is responsible and therefore takes the credit or the blame for whatever happens in his or her government.
Well, that's President Akufo-Addo then. To many political analysts who we're going to be engaging shortly, this was the president's attempt to shield the flag bearer of the NPP, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, of any blame on the state of affairs and the economic quagmire that we find ourselves. And you recall, this has been a debate over the last couple of weeks after Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia presented his vision statement, indicating that he is his own man, is thinking differently, and also taking a different course by making proposals and promises that certain decisions that have been implemented by this administration, he would depart from that. For instance, the e-levy, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia has promised to abolish the e-levy, and then also the VAT on electricity, emissions tax, and so on. The questions had been raised as to whether he had at any point advise the president on it. President Kufuor says every economic crisis, he's taking personal responsibility for it as president of the Republic of Ghana. But if that is the case, how does that also impact on Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia's candidature on the ticket of the NPP? Now, the economy was prime and very central to the State of Nation address today. And Professor Lord Mensah is a professor of finance at the University of Ghana Business School. Is joining us. He's also an economist. Having a conversation on this matter. Professor Lord Mensah, good evening. Thank you very much for joining us here on Hot Edition.
Yeah, good evening, Alfred, and good evening to our listeners.
I do really appreciate your time this evening.
Thank you.
The president, for the first time to many, is taking full responsibility for the economic crisis that we find ourselves in now. And does it in any way, as it were, based on your understanding of how the workings of the advisory body, in this case we're talking about the economic management team, shield Dr. Bawumia of any blame or any direct responsibility for the economic situation?
Yeah, so if you look at governance, I mean, it's mainly a teamwork. And I can tell you that the president cannot, as one president, have his eyes, everywhere. And so if the team does not perform, I mean, we blame it on the members of the team. We don't single-handedly take one person out and say that, yes, I wasn't part of the team, because when decisions were taken, I wasn't there or not. So effectively, once the team, and, for 7 years, we're expecting you to drive inflation down. For 7 years, we're expecting you to bring interest rates down. For 7 years, we want to see some stability in exchange rate, and we did not. For 7 years, we ended up, being priced out of international markets. I mean, talking about the Eurobond market. For 7 years, we have to, even in our own sauna, worry that, I mean, it's an achievement to negotiate with your external creditors. I mean, from where I sit, nobody can take himself out. It's a collective responsibility. So the president alone cannot sit down there and say, I take a blame for that. No. I mean, the rhetorics and, words, gameplay, I think Ghanaians have gone beyond that. We elected a party. A party assumes government. Once they assume government, everything they do is a collective thing. The president cannot. Then why do we appoint ministers? Because the president cannot be everywhere, and the Constitution has its own wisdom of making sure that the president has people that he trusted, in certain key sectors, expecting certain deliveries from them. Why do we hold cabinet meetings upon meetings every now and then to ascertain the delivery on the ground? I mean, as far as the ministers are concerned. So, I think that we should just, stop that. Non-performance is not performance. Government did not deliver. That is all. What government promised is completely different from what is being realized now. And, I mean, this huge variation is a sign of non-performance. That is what we do in economics.
Now, on the issue of economics, as you have just mentioned, now, I want us to take a listen to the president talk about the economy and a few things. I'll take your responses to it, please.
fuel automated dispenser. My expectation is that the remaining automated dispensers will be installed by September this year to help optimize the distribution of premixed fuel. Government will continue to take decisive actions. Toyota economic, environmental, and social value for our development. Speaker, last year, Ghana regained her position as the leading producer of gold in Africa, having overtaken South Africa. Our gold production reached an unprecedented 4 million ounces, according to preliminary reports. This is as a result of the progressive policies we have been implementing.
But, Professor Lord Mensah, I mean, hearing that we have regained the #1 spot in gold production, the fundamental question that will be on the minds of many is that how much of that stays here? How much of that has a direct impact on the economy? Because being #1 of the production of the precious metal is a big deal, and it certainly should have a replica effect on the economy. But that's what we're saying, isn't it?
Yes, I mean, indeed, it is a big deal. But a situation where you've compromised your share in such, precious metal that you own as a country, and obviously you don't expect that even if you gain the #1 spot, it will transmit into the lives of the citizen. Now, if you look at the percentage of our interest in gold mining in this country, talks about, not Galamsey, official gold mining, I mean, it will tell you that, yes, indeed, even if we gain the #1 spot, the transmission effect of that into the development of the country is very, very minimal. So this is not something that the president should even, highlight on. Because, I mean, if you go through all the economic, the macro indicators that we've chalked, the debt negotiations and all those, I mean, DDEP is not something that is even supposed to reflect in our current, State of the Nation address. Because if you look at what the first State of the Nation address somewhere in 2017, the president was clear that it's not supposed to be in debt. And so if you take your mind back and you relate it to where we find ourselves, where in the president's statement, he has to accept that having a level agreement with executive board of IMF, having an agreement with our bilateral, external creditors, and then negotiating, your commercial debt is an achievement. And then I don't know what, an achievement is. All these things are things that you are bound to do when you do not perform. Because at the end of the day, if you were to perform as indicated, expected of, 1D, 1F, expected of, planting for food and jobs, and ensuring that, our manufacturing sector drives this economy instead of the service sector, and ensuring that jobs are created. I don't think DDEP and these bondholders, those terms will be bouncing in your, sauna. So it's a huge deviation, and anybody that is critically, in tune with performance measures will clearly tell you that, yes, indeed, I mean, the team has not performed, and nobody should convince you that whether he was part of it or not, the team did not perform. Yes.
I see. Now, and on this part as well, on the CD performance and then also the fiscals.
And treatment.
Yeah.
The contractor has been paid an advance mobilization of 15%, representing some $7.5 million United States dollars, and work has begun. The project commenced effectively in January this year and will be completed in 28 months. Mr. Speaker, it is important to underline that the recent change in the leadership of the Finance Ministry will not affect government's determined commitment to implementing the terms agreed with the IMF to ensure that we restore the economy to healthy growth as soon as possible. Indeed, the macro economy was much stronger at the end of 2023 than in 2022. Inflation, which peaked at 54.4% in December 2022, has reduced to 23.5% in January 2025. Real GDP growth for the first 3 quarters of 2023 averaged 2.8%, higher than the targeted growth rate of 1.5% for 2023. The CD has been largely stable since February 2023.
So, Professor Lord Mensah, 2 things here. Now, let's start off from the CD bit, because at least from January 2024 to date, the CD, by the Bank of Ghana's own data, has declined by 4.4% between January and now. In fact, the CD is going for about 12 cedis, 85 pesos to the dollar. Now, if you look at that year-on-year analysis as well, there's been, at least as of January 2023, based on Bank of Ghana's own data, the depreciation of the CD was about 20.6%. Fast forward to January 2024, we're seeing a 0.7% decline. Would you say that the president would be right to describe the CD in this current shape as relatively stable against the dollar?
Yeah, I mean, if you the economics, right, and the way it is packaged, you can always have some good side of it. When you pick an economic series, you can't just pick only 2 points and then say that the CD cumulatively has depreciated for about 9% compared to the previous year. We are doing well. You can't put them, because I mean the effect is cumulative. We are talking about a CD, but let me use inflation as a typical example. Remember, there was a time inflation was around 54.1.
Yes.
As you know, indicated in the, what do you call it, the SONA by the president, and it has now reduced to 23.5. Now, if you look at these numbers, and assuming you are supposed to buy an item of 100 cedis last year and you did not buy it, you're waiting for this year to buy it. Look at 54.1% of 100 cedis. Let me round it up. That is 54 cedis, isn't it?
Indeed.
Now, these 54 cedis added to the 100 cedis, that would be 154. Now, there was a time that the inflation was 33%. It was reducing, and so I'll pick the 33%. Now, what is 33% of 154%? 154 Ghana cities. Let me round it up. That is about, 500 cities. So add that that's about 50 cities. So add that 50 cities to the 154. You realize that would be around 204. Now, so an item that you did not buy that was 100 cities. Looking at this number build up, I've not added the 23.5%. Looking at this inflation build up, it's now 200 cities as we speak now. Looking at the general numbers on the average. So clearly, it tells you that you cannot just use one point downward trend to make a case that that is the state of the Ghanaian economy. Forgetting that the depreciation is what? It's a cumulative situation. And so, for me, most of the economic numbers I see in there, they are just economic packages. I can pick some bits of a typical economic time series and present it to you that, yes, we are in ascension. We are doing well. But then, if you put the entire, space and time period together, you'll come to realize that cumulatively we are not doing well. And that is exactly what, the current administration has been doing when it comes to throwing out economic numbers. Pick the good ones, but then when it comes to putting all together, you come to understand that generally we've not been doing well. So from where I sit, yes, indeed, in terms of numbers, just the 2 points, 2 years, 2023, 2022, you can say, yes, we've had some stability. But let's also appreciate that as a country, when it comes to the exchange rate,
right.
We are not in full service of our external debt. We have suspended our external debt, and as a result of that, it's giving us some cushioning in terms of, the city demand. Because if you pick every economy, the demand for the currency is by businesses, by individuals, and then by government. And in fact, government has always been the biggest demander of the world, the foreign currency, which is the dollar, every now and then.
Right.
So now the government ceases to, demand on the market because of the debt moratorium with our bilateral creditors, and then the debt suspension with it, the Euro bond and all those. So let's wait. If we wait, and then at the point in time, government resumes the payment of its external debt, then we'll see the full
true value of the city.
Demand of the dollar.
Indeed.
Then in that case, we can comfortably say that if we are enjoying stability, it's indeed stability. But for now, I see it to be more or less kind of a cosmetic stability, which at the end of the day, it may not be a stability that can be maintained, So we don't have to use that to deceive Ghanaians that we are enjoying stability.
Okay. Well, Professor Lord Mensah, I appreciate your time, and thank you very much for your initial thoughts on this. And
You're welcome.
And let's stay a bit further on this matter, because Dr. Jonathan Asantiochi is a political analyst and lecturer at the University of Cape Coast, is joining us. So, Dr. Asantiochi, good evening. Thank you very much for joining us here on Hot Edition.
Good evening, my brother Alfred.
Now, I want to take a listen to the president's statement about responsibility for the economic quagmire that we find ourselves in, and whether that settles the debate about whether Dr. Bawumia is at any point fully also responsible for where we are now.
Executive power of the state is vested in the President of the Republic. He or she is the executive. There's no ambiguity about where the buck stops when it comes to responsibility for what happens in the government. It stops with the President. He or she has ultimate responsibility. It would be an unwise president that would pretend to have all the answers and refuse the advice of his officials. The fact remains that the president holds the executive power.
Well, so it says the buck stops with him. He holds the executive power. He takes full responsibility for the economic situation. Does that put to bed this conversation about Dr. Bawumia, and at any point, the responsibility it takes as well for being the chair of the economic management team and the economic situation we find ourselves in?
Thank you, and good evening to your listeners and my good self and yourself, my brother, Mr. Ocansey. The point is that it appears to me that our president is gradually becoming a walking paradox, in the sense that it says that the president takes the credit and the blame of its government. You see, and my view is that the politics of it is just for the optics. What did you mean when you used to say? That's the question I'm asking the president. What did he mean when he used to say that Mills and Mahama government? What did he mean by that phraseology? If not the fact that he was combining the two, that the two should take responsibility of whatever mess that was created at that time, then I really don't know what the president is talking about. In the same paradox, it tells us that his government is a digitalization government that is led by the vice president, the MPP's excellent presidential candidate. I think that the inherent controversies, the inherent illogicalities in the logic that the president is preaching leaves much to be desired. And I think that It is because what the vice president went out there at UPSA to put up with his vision and virtually controverting what the president stands for, and how he received the backlash. And if you checked what Imani Africa put out there, talking about the age 18 to about 64, and all voting against what Vice President Bawumia said out there. And the point is that the negative sentiment against the Vice President's speech had increased, and that of the government had increased by a threefold. So if it was 10.5 thereabout, we are now talking over 30 point something. That is how, the negative sentiment that we are talking about, the Vice President's speech received. So the president just came to do a damage control. Now, you see, virtually, is the president expecting the vice president to go out there to defend the bad record? If he says that the buck stops with him, is he going to go out there and rather do the campaign by himself for Dr. Bawumia? So you see that the president has a lot more. When you spin one tail, you need about 20 more to make it positive. That is what the vice president did, and that's the kind of damage the president is trying to do.
But
because the question is, Alfred, the question is, if you have a different mission and vision, why then do you take the president to become part of your advisors when his vision and mission is different from yours? He shouldn't be part of your advisory committee. He shouldn't, because you have something different. And that is what you need to point to all of us. That is not demonstrated in terms of practice. You can ask your question.
But what I want to find out is, how much good does it make to Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, for instance, to have the president, the sitting president, come to say, you know what, for whatever crisis and the economic situation, blame me for it. Don't blame my vice president, who is the flag bearer as well. Blame me for it. And this is the vice president who is a flag bearer who's going to face an election. And the president says, well, I admit we're in an economic situation that could have telling effect on the elections, but blame me for it. How much good does it make for the vice president, who is also contesting on the ticket of the NPP, the same party that the president is on, who is accepting responsibility for the crisis?
It does some good, but it does a lot of bad as well. I think that it behoves the vice president himself, who has been the leader of the economic management team, who himself has never been a mate. And in fact, if he's not the driver, he's even a little above the driver himself. Because I've said time without number for a vice president to read the manifesto of the driver, in which within that manifesto he tells the people of Cape Coast that I have good news for you. We are coming to build airport and the harbor. When the driver himself does not even know that this is part of the speech of the manifesto. So who is the driver and who is the mate? So the point is that as much as you try to approbate and reprobate, or you don't want to approbate and reprobate, there comes a collateral damage of which the leadership ought to take, which inclusive is the vice president. So that is just an arduous task, trying to do away with such a damage. All you need to do is to take the good, the bad, and the ugly, and see how best you can explain that, because you are in a better position to explain that more than Japan, more than Kennedy, Japan, more than Adenimo, because you have been part of the whole saddle. So when it is bad and you are running away, you are now compelling the president to come and say that he is a driver. Virtually, he's a driver. So once the car has gone into the ditch, so be it. If we want to blame, we are going to blame him. So the point is that, yes, the entire team has not performed creditably. So it doesn't matter the innocence of Dr. Bawumia, even if he's as innocent as a child, because he's been part of the team, he's going to bear the brunt. That's the more reason why other philosophical thinkers, other scholars were of the view that, look, the two of you, it would have been better to leave so that you will bring out a new face who will want to say that I have not been part of this, but this is my vision. And people would have given him that, the doubt. What do we even that phrase?
The benefit of the doubt, yes.
The benefit of the doubt. People have given him that. But you cannot be given that benefit of the doubt. That is the difficulty of and then the president finally says that, the election 2024, the one with better credibility. My goodness, the president is virtually hanging the vice president on a petal.
Well,
if we are talking about credibility, he's hanging the vice president on a petal.
Dr. Jonathan Asantioche, appreciate your time. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us. Dr. Jonathan Asantioche is a lecturer at the University of Cape Coast, also a political analyst, joining us with his thoughts on this here on Hot Edition on 3FM92.7, also live on Kesmi 107.1 in Tamale and beyond, also on W93.5 in Wa and beyond. Keep your thoughts coming through here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. Now, the president, Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo, during the State of the Nation address, also started on a note of security. In fact, talked about issues relating to the extremist groups, and then also the activities of the extremist groups in the various neighboring countries, and Ghana still remains peaceful. Now, one person who has been watching this space quite closely is the United Nations Senior Mediation Officer, who is a conflict resolution, peace building and development professional. So Emmanuel Bombande is joining us on the telephone. So Bombande, good evening. Thank you so much for joining us here on Hot Edition.
Hello, good evening, Alfred, and good evening to your listeners.
It's always good to have you join us. First off, I mean, hearing the president establish the fact about the peace that we're enjoying as a country, clearly that is not also to as it were, or it cannot discount the threats that we're faced with, does it not?
Yeah, thank you. The threats we are faced with are interconnected in several layers. And if I were to make a quick observation, keep in mind that the current spate of violence in Boku that the president gave space to in his State of the Nation address broke out in December 2021. The indicators, the analysis was very clear that we're going to have the likelihood of the tragic consequences that the president himself alluded to. And if I were to quote, the tragedy is not only that a thriving and dynamic town is being reduced to a wasteland of destruction and distrust, unquote. This description, we saw it in the analysis already in early 2022. So the steps or the remedial efforts or measures that the president describes are now enforced should have been rigorously pursued in 2022. And we would not have had Boku to be where it is now, that he is describing with the threat to terrorism and extremist groups. But be it as it may, those remedial responses, for me, if you look at it in the context of the threats, I want to quickly make two comments and then wait for any follow-up question. One is that the actions that he alluded to, such as the Chief Justice setting up courts to speedily and efficiently prosecute people involved in the violence, is definitely one of the remedial efforts that I'm talking about that should have been well in place in 2022. Why do I say this? When the police and military operators or on the theater of peacekeeping, when people who have violated the law openly carrying weapons are apprehended and then arrested and now arraigned before court for prosecution, they are released. And what they do is people see them walking about. So it galvanized impunity to the extent that the police and the military themselves thought that their efforts did not have much meaning. And that is then when they resorted to instant justice by apprehending civilians and meting out beatings because they felt they could not get these cases prosecuted. So you see that the action of speedily prosecuting offenders would go a long way to deal with impunity. And that is why you look at it in that context, so that the task force can now be relieved to upscale their peacekeeping mandate with the top-notch professionalism that is looking at how are you building the trust and the relationship with all the people, Mampusi, Kusasi, Bisa, Hausa, Dagomba, regardless of any ethnic affiliation. You are a citizen who must be held responsible for your actions. But that will be done in fairness, that will be done through trust building, and that will be done through a healthy civil-military relationship. Now, I wanted to give these two observations and to say that if we do this, as the president has outlined, we will then increase the capacity that is resilient amongst the people in the upholding of the rule of law to make sure that extremist threats and terrorist threats do not come our way. But we cannot have it any other way and think that we are an island and those threats will not cross our borders. My third point was also the regional dynamics, which is then interconnected at the international level. And I'll be very quick on this. Let us not create the impression that our borders are impermeable and that nothing can come across to disturb our state of peace. But I agree that the quality of our people, if you see something, say something. I agree that our democratic credentials and the space that for our people they can take advantage of, we can elect our leaders. All those contribute to what we have been doing up to now to be relatively peaceful. But having made this, I think that I would want to conclude on the note that at the regional level, we should not create the impression that our borders are impermeable, as I have already stated, but rather how we jointly and joined to have a collective responsibility at the sub-region to deal with extremism and terrorism. So that it is not as if to say we are blocking terrorists from coming down south, but that collectively we are supporting the Sahelian states, and collectively as West Africa we are dealing with it. And finally, and this is where I don't know whether it came up because I couldn't watch the whole of SONA. I had a meeting. Keep in mind that the genesis of the spread of terrorism that went in different parts of the world with ISIS and with the formation of different Islamic terrorist groups hinged on one protracted chronic conflict in the world around the Middle East. And that has invariably, in different ways, if you call it metamorphosed into different motivations and ideologies, some of them opportunists, but some of them radicalized by the sense of global injustice, the sense of helplessness. And that is why I was expecting to hear the president join all world leaders to propose and to stand firm on the two-state solution to end the Israel-Hamas war and genocide. And to do that, we stand on the premise of supporting international law, calling for a ceasefire, particularly to address humanitarian concerns. And that the more our voices are uplifted for what is right, for what is just, the more Ghana is seen to be pursuing what is legally binding on all of us in international law and jurisprudence, and not to be, in my view, refusing to engage in what is very critical, that at this point is at the root of global insecurity and terrorism. So you see it at the national level, as I have explained, particularly in Boku. You see it at the regional level in West Africa, and you also see it at the international level. And that is what I meant when I made my first observation, that there is an interconnection in different layers that must be looked upon comprehensively. These are my views, my good brother.
And I really do appreciate your thoughts on this, and very expert analysis indeed. And this is one that doesn't end here, because the many factors that you made reference to are ongoing issues. And so we'll see how the response mechanism will be like. I thank you so much, Mr. Bomande, for your time.
Thank you so much, Alfred.
It's a senior United Nations mediation advisor. Emmanuel Bombande, the co-founder of the West African Network for Peace Building, joining us with his thoughts on this here on Hot Edition on 3FM92.7. I'm of reactions as well from both the majority and the minority leaders in Parliament of the State of the Nation address earlier today.
Mr. Speaker, thank you for the opportunity. Mr. Speaker, on such an auspicious occasion, and considering the optimism with which Mr. President has spoken to the nation, Mr. Speaker, you were right, and Mr. President himself acknowledged that considering the situation we find ourselves, we are down, but we rise again under the able leadership he is providing and the future which is assured. Mr. Speaker, we are, by the practice of this House, ready to debate Mr. President's message.
Right Honorable Speaker, let me, on behalf of the NDC minority, thank His Excellency the President for his message on the state of our nation. But Mr. Speaker, the unemployment situation in our country is at a critical point. Mr. Speaker, the Hansard will record me today. Mr. Speaker, the unemployment situation in our country is at a critical point. Yet, we did not hear a word from our President on this matter. Mr. Speaker, out of 33 million population, only 11.3 million are employed. This number includes peasant farmers. Mr. Speaker, the difference between the 33 million and 11.3 million is what I call ninja. No income, no jobs, no assets. Mr. Speaker, this means that 2 out of every 3 Ghanaian is unemployed.
Well, that's Dr. Kesela Tufo saying there, also responding to the President of the Nation address. A number of you sending us messages. Abdul Salem says, let's vote and get all the persons who have to be prosecuted to be done. Juliana Belinda Obray says, we are kicking them out of government, you say. Ali Abdul Wahab says, the President is repackaging Dr. Mahmoud Bamia for us. It will not work. And this one here as well, so many of your messages. Sapon Prince says, John Mahama, he says, has also not done much, and a lot more questions needs to be answered. He said he needs to answer a lot more questions. Baba Yaya Jalo Hakan says, Kumasi Airport to be renamed Nana Juman Prempe the first, Tamale 1 to be called Yakubu Tali. That's according to President Akufo-Addo. And you're asking, how about Kotoka International Airport? You say, thank you very much. And I recall, Michael Obodu, that there was this conversation about renaming Kotoka to reflect, you know, that the Ghana community was also asking for their fair share of representation.
Yeah.
So this is another matter that we'll see how things play out. And Abdul Samed, I see the messages as well coming through thinking fast. If you go on our Facebook page at 3FM927, you can drop your thoughts there. We continue with the State of the Nation address analysis in business. Michael Obodu is standing by right after this quick break. Stay with us.
The 3FM Gobe Festival 2024. Gobe Lovers and Gobe Eaters Association. Time now so. Get ready for the biggest Gobe event in Ghana on Saturday, 16th March at the Accra Mall Interchange Park. From 9 a.m., come experience a food festival interlaced with fun activities and music performances like never before. Be there to savor different flavors and combos of Gobe, like Gobe and rice or Gobe and cake. Throw some pepper on the side, avocado in the center circle, and eggs on the top corner. Although last year was terrific, this year will be a showdown. Don't miss out on the gastronomy gastronomic delights and vibrant atmosphere. Are you a gobe seller or you know anyone? Call now to register 0532 200 927 or 0531 100 927. Let's link up. The 3FM Gobe Festival 2024. Your Gobe joint the B. Join us on Saturday 16th March at 9 a.m. and let's transform the Cromwell Interchange Park into a Gobe lovers paradise. 3FM 92.7, your urban lifestyle radio station.
Sponsored by Glovo, Inkulinu, Fidelity Bank, Bigo.
Hello there, good evening. It's time for the business news on Hot Edition. Coming up tonight, President Akufo-Addo assures of concluding external debt restructuring process as soon as possible to enable Ghana emerge from the crisis. The details coming up shortly. Please stay with us. Well, thank you for staying with us. I am Michael Obodu. Details of our top story now. President Akufo-Addo has stated that Ghana will soon conclude its external debt restructuring as part of requirements to securing its third tranche of the IMF bailout funds. This comes few days after the country secured a term sheet deal with its bilateral creditors, which was crucial to the release of the second tranche. While delivering the State of the Nation address in Parliament, the President stated that government was working to secure a deal in the shortest possible time.
The external debt side, we achieved a significant milestone by reaching an agreement with our public creditors. And I'll use this occasion to express our appreciation to the Republic of France and the People's Republic of China, co-chairs of the Official Creditors Committee, for their positive roles in this achievement. We've also intensified our engagement with our external bondholders, goals of transparency, fair treatment, consistency with the IMF debt sustainability analysis, and good faith. We are focused and committed to accelerating the process. We're committed to concluding the external debt restructuring process as soon as possible, so we move past the crisis. This will enable us to complete substantially projects that have been constrained due to financial challenges. In the meantime, some of the priority projects have been transferred onto the GOG budget with the same fiscal space to ensure their completion.
So you heard the President Akufo-Addo speaking at the just held State of the Nation address. Now, away from that, government plans to establish a fintech and innovation fund to aid the growth and establishment of fintech startups to improve and automate the delivery and use of financial services. Vice President Dr. Mahamadou Bawumia announced this in Accra on Monday during the official press launch of the maiden 3I Africa Summit.
Government will be setting up a fintech innovation fund to support startups and other fintechs. What is clear in this whole journey towards digitalization, what for me has been so amazing is that most of the digitalization that we are seeing is homegrown. This is driven by local fintechs and local IT. As we all know, payment systems implemented and managed by GIPS include the Ghana Instant Payment, GIP, GIPS Instant Payment, Mobile Money Interoperability, and the Ghana Automated Clearinghouse Systems. These have revolutionized the payments ecosystem and positioned the country on the path of sustained financial inclusiveness.
So here the Vice President Dr. Mahamadou Bawumia. Meanwhile, Secretary General of the African Continental Free Trade Area, His Excellency Wamkele Mene, in an exclusive interview with 3 Businesses Park with Asare on Business Focus, stressed the crucial role of digitalization in growing local economies in Africa. Take a listen.
the European Union was able to accelerate intra-EU trade by allowing free movement of persons, so that business people are able to move around the continent. And we want to see the digitization of Africa's economy and digitization of customs systems. We have already achieved digitization of payments. We introduced the Pan-African Payments and Settlement System. Ourselves, the AFCFTA, the African Union Commission, and Afrexim Bank. So we have achieved that very important milestone of enabling payments in local currency. It must not be just seeing higher volumes of trade. It must also we must also see a industrial capacity that improves. So establishment of regional value chains, manufacturing centers of manufacturing excellence, which, by the way, we are beginning to see.
So that was the voice of the Secretary General of the African Continental Free Trade Area Secretariat, Wankele Mene, bringing an end to the business segment here on Hot Edition. For more business stories, please visit our website. It's 3news.com/business. I am Michael Obodu. Thank you for listening. As always, please stay safe. Up next is sports, and Billy is on standby with the latest.
Hello, good evening and welcome to the sports segment here on the 3FM Hot Edition. My name is Billy Shen. Let's start off from the local sports, because the President of the Republic of Ghana, Nana Akufo-Addo, has revealed he would unveil a presidential policy to help develop grassroots football following the poor performances of the Black Stars at the 2023 AFCON. He also wants to see regional and national juvenile football teams active within the coming weeks.
Speaker, I believe it is time for us to take a long-term, far-sighted approach to correct what has gone wrong. It is time to return to scouting, grooming, and developing talent at the grassroots level under a presidential policy on football that I intend to unveil very soon. The School Sports Department of the Ministry of Education will work hand in hand with the Ministry of Youth and Sports in collaboration and synergy with the Ghana Football Association to build district, regional, and national juvenile teams for both girls and boys.
That was the President of the Republic of Ghana, Nana Akufo-Addo. In women's football, the Black Queens will face Zambia tomorrow at 4 p.m. for a place in the final round of qualification to the 2024 Olympic Games. Ghana currently trail 1-0 on aggregate and desperately need a win to send Zambia out. Coach Nora Hupla and midfielder AEC are ready for the big challenge.
When you look on the statistics, they were all on our side. Possession, attempts on the goal. I think we deserved there at home a goal, but that's how sometimes football go. We flew then very straight to Zambia, right Friday night, to arrive early here. We had a very warm welcome in Zambia. It's a beautiful country, actually. I like how it's green here. The people are very friendly, so we feel very, very good here. Had some good training sessions. Tonight we go in the stadium, and I heard that tomorrow it's going to be a packed stadium. So we like it. We like this crowd, and I hope it will be a big football game tomorrow evening for all of us.
It would be amazing for the team to go Olympics. It's a big opportunity to show the world that Ghana can play football and just put ourselves on the map again. I'm adapting. I feel like I'm doing well, especially in training. That's the best way to adapt, just train and work hard with the girls, and hopefully I'll be on the same level or speed with the girls, and then we can play football together properly.
That was Coach Nora Hupla and midfielder Frida Isi. Let's move on to European football, where later tonight 3 FA Cup round of 16 games are set to take place. Here are the fixtures. Antoine Semenyo's Bournemouth will take on Fatal Sharaku's Leicester City. Blackburn will take on Newcastle and Luton Town will take on Manchester City. Now, Brighton will be in action on Wednesday, but will be without winger Kaoru Mitoma, who is expected to miss the remainder of the season with a back injury. The Japan international missed Seagulls' 1-1 Premier League draw with Everton because of this issue. Now, Brighton boss Roberto De Zerbi confirmed that Mitoma's season is now expected to be over. That brings an end to the sports segment here on the 3FM Hot Edition. My name is Billy Shen, and up next is entertainment with Akofa.
Hello and thank you for staying tuned in to Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. It's now time for the entertainment news segment powered by 3 Entertainment. My name is Akofa. Earlier today, the President of the Republic, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, gave the State of the Nation's address in Parliament. The address touched on various aspects of the economy in fulfillment of Article 67 of the Constitution. The President, speaking on the tourism sector, said the country is now realizing its long-promised potential. In the President's address, he mentioned that over 208,000 domestic and international visitors patronized the modernized Kwame Nkrumah Memorial Park between 14th July and 31st December 2023.
Mr. Speaker, I believe we can say with certainty that in the tourism sector, Ghana is finally realizing her long-promised potential. Starting from the events and excitement of the year of return in 2019, Ghana has truly become an attractive tourist destination, with visitors' numbers increasing every year. December in GH is now an established and increasingly attractive phenomenon, which brings visitors to our country in the month of December and has changed the events calendar around the Christmas holiday season in Accra and many other towns. Mr. Speaker, for the first time since the Kwame Nkrumah Memorial Park was constructed in 1992, government has undertaken the full modernization and rehabilitation of the facility. Since the commissioning of the modernized park in July 2023, the number of domestic and international visitors has risen dramatically. A national newspaper reporting on activities at the revamped park had a screaming headline which said, "Akufo-Addo resurrects Nkrumah." Whatever it is, since the commissioning, there have been 208,557 domestic and international visitors to the park between 14th July and 31st December 2023. Mr. Speaker, compare that, if you may, with the best performance until then, which was in the year of return in 2019, when there were 126,190 visitors in the year.
Well, staying a while longer on the son of the President says the government, through the National Film Authority, is committed to supporting the production of world-class content and films, as well as increasing the cinema infrastructure in Ghana.
Mr. Speaker, government, through the National Film Authority, is committed to supporting the production of world-class content and film, as well as increasing the cinema infrastructure in Ghana and, by extension, on the continent. To this end, a favorable fiscal tax regime for cinema projects, including income tax and VAT incentives, import duty exemptions on film production equipment, 20% tax rebate for strategic film productions, and film financing reliefs is being elaborated by cabinet, which will be outdoored very soon and should provide another tangible reason for the choice of Ghana as a film production country.
And that's how we end the entertainment news here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7, powered by 3 Entertainment. My name is Akofa. Thanks for tuning in. For more news, log on to 3news.com. The 3FM Drive continues.